In the hieroglyph of the human soul, you have the mirror of self-reflection. Can you please talk more about that?
In the hieroglyph, this mirror of self-reflection is a revelation for me because it answered a question I'd always wondered. Why have we gone through so much difficulty for so long? Why have we journeyed the question of how am I me and not you for so long? And that's really what happens in the mirror. When I look in the mirror, I know I'm me, I know I'm not you. And when you look in the mirror, you know you're you and not me. But how did that happen? Because in ancient times, we used to see ourselves in one another. It was like a living tree. If you were sick, I was sick. In other words, we heal together. We're family. But we turned a corner, and that's what happens here quite literally in the immersive theater of the hieroglyph of the human soul that I started painting on 9/11/2001 when the towers in New York collapsed. Now, if we think of that as really the collapse of the binary, the two erections of money and God, I have more than you have, as a type of ego, meaning if I have more, I must be more. In other words, if I look in the mirror and I see myself, I must be important. But these two questions, the collapse of the vaulted sense of self-importance, putting us back on our knees. And for me, what it did, it put me back on my knees quite literally in the studio, meaning in where the home I live, my domestic space where I love. And it said, now that you're on your knees, what's the story you're going to tell? Well, I'm delighted that part of the story of the hieroglyph of the human soul is the story that we have taken a very long journey to get here. All of us. So that when each of us look in the mirror, we do see ourselves. But there's also the realization that comes to us from the Wizard of Oz, which is why when Dorothy sees Auntie M and she tries to touch her, she can't. She can't touch the people she loves. She can't get there because she's looking in the wrong direction. And a lot of our story now is, what direction should I look? And this is actually telling us as a symbolical work of art, but also very importantly as an environmental work of domestic space, meaning a painted cave. It takes us back to the truth that we're the technology and that we change our story according to the story we're willing to live with. So this is the story I live with. This is not the story I impose on my neighbor. And that's when we finally reach this point of understanding or understanding that I'm stuck. That when I try to get into the other room where I see those people because I'm looking this direction, I can never do it. Why can't I get there? I see myself this direction. Why can't I touch when I see myself? And it's saying, because this is the optical world. I want you to close your eyes. Remember Dorothy and the Wizard of Oz. What does the good witch say? She says, close your eyes. Click your heels 3 times. I don't know whether you have to do that, but it couldn't hurt. Because the story here is we see ourselves, we finally close our eyes, and we turn around. And as we turn around, we start to realize now, I can touch. We can actually connect. And here, when we turn around into domestic space, into a painted cave, in a library. So isn't this when we try no longer to get somewhere where we think we ought to be, or be someone we think we ought to be when we look in the mirror, but we think more like trees. Maybe I'm home. Maybe there's no further to go. Maybe the questions aren't about more or what I am not, but finally to look at myself as the outcome of all of this, and to understand that I might be a unique human being when I look in the mirror, but I am woven of the entire human story, and this is the secret of our sacred DNA. This is what my painting, Phoenix Arise, reveals in kind. That's very important because this is the language of creation speaking to us. Creation comes from the act of devotion and love, not from the desire to gain something that is not ours, but the willingness to try to become worthy of that what we seek to know. And that's why this is my home. I really believe that the truth is that when we turn away from the mirror of self-reflection, we haven't lost anything. If I need to, I see myself. And in this direction, I know I'm not you. So sometimes I need to look self-reflectively. But when I'm home, when I take off the armor, when I try to say, who am I really? Then I have to turn around slowly and look at the people I love, look at my daughters, my wife, look at my granddaughter, my friends, and say, this is about community. This isn't about me. I know who I am. This is about us. And if you learn to trust your instrument and I trust my instrument, finally we'll make music together, rather than worrying so much about where we're not and how do we get there. Thank you.